I am blood and fire. Driftmark must pass to salt and sea.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're talking about metaphors, callbacks, Easter eggs, and some cool visual techniques that you possibly didn't notice during Season 2, Episode 5 of House of the Dragon. Spoilers abound, so watch at your own risk.
And once again, in the name of power, it's the weak and the women who must endure.
Number 10. The Spoils of War. We're used to following highborns and nobles for the plotlines in Westeros, but the windows we get into the life of common folk can be just as significant.
If those shipping lanes should fall, it will beggar our port.
In this episode, one of the first sights we see at King's Landing is a mass of townspeople vying for the small portions of available food. This is likely the result of Corlys Velaryon's blockade on the capital's seaward shipments. It's been referenced a few times this season, but now we're seeing the far-reaching effect of Corlys's naval power.
But now, with a blockade in place and war threatening...
That treasonous blockade won't last long. I plan to send Vhagar to burn it to ash.
Not only are the portions minimal, but some of the fruit is discernibly rotten. It's much like the state of the kingdom itself, slowly weakening in the ripeness of its stability. That's certainly true for the peasant class.
After further thought, I have decided that I cannot restore your sheep. If war were to break out, my dragons will require feed.
Number 9. Blackfyre returns. One of the most game-changing outcomes of Rook's Rest is the injuring of King Aegon. The Greens know this, as they work very hard to carry his body through the city under wraps. While this is happening, we see Aegon's soldiers putting away Blackfyre, the mighty broadsword that once belonged to King Viserys. We've seen Viserys holding the weapon last season, but its presence here indicates that Aegon took the saber with him into battle.
The heir for a day. Did you say it?
Blackfyre becomes important later in the timeline, as it's involved in starting another major familial civil war. It's unclear if we'll see any further connection to the Blackfyre rebellions in this show, but it clearly holds some importance to the Iron Throne's current king.
He wears the Conqueror's crown, wields the Conqueror's sword. Number
8. I thought the dragons was gods. A carriage-sized dragon head is not a sight you see every day. Criston Cole hoped to use the spectacle of Meleys' severed skull as an indication of victory to the people of King's Landing. Instead, they looked at the great beast's remains like a bad omen.
Mark my words, this is a black omen.
The deeper meaning here is that dragons were viewed as invulnerable deities, and they represent the perceived invincibility of the Targaryen dynasty.
I thought the dragons was gods.
The sight of such fallen magnificence indicates that the Targaryens on either side might be defeatable, and that they have been weakened. Hugh Hammer goes so far as to call the remains, quote, just meat, which could mean that he doesn't fear Targaryen wrath as others do.
It's just meat.
Number 7. I mislike feeling powerless. The first time we visited the Eyrie, Tyrion Lannister was facing his first trial by combat.
Over the centuries, many and more armies have broken themselves against my bloody gate.
The famously impregnable castle is ruled by Jane Arryn at this point in the House of the Dragon timeline. During a negotiation between Lady Arryn and Rhaena Targaryen, the Maiden of the Vale insists on having dragons as protection.
I have hunting hounds that are more fearsome.
They are dragons nonetheless. I do not recall you specifying the size of the beast in your request.
Will you goad me, child?
She makes a power move with a line about her refusal to allow vulnerability. This is a direct quote from the Fire and Blood source material. In the same passage, Lady Arryn also notes, quote, "In this world of men, we women must band together." Gender politics play a major thematic role in the series, and the book's paragraph about the bonding between these two strong women resonates subtextually with this line.
I mislike feeling powerless.
So do I.
Number 6. Feasting. George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire books are laced with elongated accounts of food, particularly the luxurious meals had by royalty.
Excellent lamprey pie. Were you slaving away in the kitchen all day?
Only snippets of these descriptions have made it to TV, but noticeably, we get to see the inhabitants of Harrenhal dining with Daemon. Martin excessively detailed the meals in order to fully immerse readers into his scenes, as well as to highlight the hypocritical gluttony of some of the wealthy folk.
There's also goose, if you prefer it.
During this moment in Episode 5, Sir Simon Strong and his men eat excessively, while simultaneously explaining their lack of money and the castle's need for expensive repairs.
There's, of course, the matter of payment.
That's pricey irony. It's also curious that goose is the entree mentioned, since that's the sigil of House Cargill.
Brother! Do not do this. I beg you.
Number 5. Sailing to the west.
My castle is a tomb.
Losing Rhaenys Targaryen was devastating, but it likely hurt no one more than her husband Corlys Velaryon. Despite insistence from his granddaughter, he initially seems unsalvageable from grief, wishing only to disappear past the distant horizon.
Rather, I would sail into the west and be lost.
Mentioning the west could have multiple meanings here. For one, it represents the mostly unmapped parts of the Westerosi world, which Arya Stark will later set out to discover.
Where are you going?
What's west of Westeros?
Corlys may want to work through grief through exploration of the uncharted. In literature, the West can symbolize endings, being the place where the sun sets, and also the compass heading for the Grey Havens in The Lord of the Rings. Allegorically, Corlys could be speaking of passing into the next world, where he could join his lost love. Number 4. Mirrored shots. Episode 5 continues the show's artistic style with some poetic visuals. At the outset, 3 characters process different outcomes of Rook's Rest. Corlys Velaryon, Alicent Hightower, and Aemond Targaryen are all framed symmetrically from behind. They face an empty armchair, Aegon's bed, and the Iron Throne respectively. We see an injured Aegon's face wrapped in bandages, with shots arranged just like the ones of the dying Viserys from Season 1. It's emblematic of how Alicent has another potentially terminal loved one to care for. Finally, Daemon and Rhaenyra find themselves at some unspoken odds over the right to the throne, and they each contemplate over separate fireplaces. A cool smash cut transitions between the two of them in inverse poses, illustrating their opposing positions.
Tell him I would much like to finish our last conversation.
Number 3. The Skull of Meraxes. As ominous as Vhagar may seem, it's easy to forget that even greater dragons came before her. Most terrifying might have been Aegon the Conqueror's mount, Balerion the Black Dread. But Aegon's sister rode the mighty Meraxes during the time of conquest, but she's been making some background cameos this season. During a library brainstorming session between Rhaenyra and Mysaria, you can see the skull of Meraxes off in the next room if you look closely.
Criston Cole made a mistake.
The appearance here might be a tribute to the fallen queen who never was, as she shared her name with Meraxes' first rider, Rhaenys Targaryen. It might also just be brilliant set design and a reminder that the legacy of the Targaryen dynasty is everywhere.
There is more than one way to fight a war.
Number 2. The Cup and the Sword. The library scene between Mysaria and Rhaenyra continues the ongoing conversation about women and men in power.
And war has ever been for men to make.
Rhaenyra laments the council's perception of her, since she was not raised in combat like her husband Daemon. She frustratingly utters an easily forgettable complaint.
If I had been a son, a sword thrust into my hand the moment I could walk. Instead, I was given my father's cup.
She's directly referring to her girlhood duties as her father's cupbearer, which we saw briefly back when the show started.
King's cupbearer must not be late. Leaves people wanting for cups.
Take this to English class, though, and you might remember reading that some literature and belief systems historically use the blade and chalice as symbols for male and female characteristics.
Leonardo gives us the chalice.
But crucially, the cup and the sword both signify valuable traits. Just because Rhaenyra was raised with different skills doesn't make her any less valuable. She is a dragon rider, after all.
There has been peace in our lifetime. You've seen no more battles than I have.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Regent. An easily missable motif in Episode 5 involves actions done in the name of others.
There are things the crown itself must not be seen to do.
Both Daemon and Mysaria give counsel regarding nefarious and manipulative deeds, and on how they should be carried out by subordinates.
Have I not spared you? What we must do now is terrible. Will you preside over it?
Criston Cole insists that he had made decisions to spare Alicent of the war's violent details, and Rhaenyra expels frustration about others doing her fighting for her.
And yet I must wait here. Always prudent, sending others to fight and be felled in my name.
A monarch called Regent is a ruler acting for someone else, and it serves as both the episode's and Aemon's new title. Tragedies like the death of Jaehaerys Targaryen happened because of mistakes carried out on others' behalf, so it is worth considering what this repeating mindset has cost. What's more dire is that it's an idea that doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
What you cannot do, let others do for you.
Did you notice anything we didn't? What interpretations do you have about the latest episode? Let us know in the comments.
When I take King's Landing, Rhaenyra is welcome to join me there and take her place by my side.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.